That's a beautiful scenery at one of Ghana's coastal communities. Canoes docked as fishermen observe a traditional break from fishing, a day deemed to be a taboo to go fishing. And it's coming from Keta through Jamestown, Elmina, Cape Coast, Shamar, and other coastal communities in Ghana. They all observe this. Well, starting today, our fishermen will have to remain on such breaks for the next 30 days. It is a period named close season and is being done for the first time in Ghana to meet a 2020 deadline to save our fishing industry from collapse. As the close season begins today, we find out how much of our depleted fish stocks will be replenished through the 1-month break this year. Well, Deputy Minister for Fisheries, Francis Atukujo, and the experts will be joining me for a conversation. And I already have the Deputy Minister here in the studio with me. You're welcome, sir.
Thank you, madam.
All right. Well, before we start the conversation, here is Henry Kwesi Bedu's report from the Jamestown fishing community on the first day of the exercise.
Fishermen protested against the announced close season last week when JoyNews visited the community. It's mid-morning Wednesday here at the Jamestown landing site. The fishing value chain employs hundreds. Fishermen are busily pulling out their canoes and docking them by the shore. With just a few canoes on the water as they stay anchored close by, the sea looks clear with little activity. Peter Godfred Kofi has been fishing for years. He tells the news team he has been preparing for government's directive and believes the ban will benefit fishermen across the country.
Well, we have started offloading our things from the canoe, and even we are just pulling our canoe upwards so that it can be proper arranged for the time 1 month ahead of us before we can continue.
Okay, so this means you guys are not going to sea?
We are not going to sea. Simple because we have been informed, and as it has been informed, we cannot overlook the law or break the law, so we have to obey to what the president has said or the government has said. But because we are not giving, we all are knowing that it is a good for us all. It's good that even if by 1 month time, by grace of God, we have a catch, it means we also will have profit. Because we have been using all the time going to the sea, at times we find it very difficult even a month to have something. But if this is going to happen and after that, by grace of God, things will change, we will like it.
James Addison agrees with him.
Initially, we were against the directive because we did not understand. But after the minister came to educate us, we now know what they want to achieve with this closed season. Now that we will have to stay at home for a month, we wish government supports us to cater for our children.
Not going to sea for a month is a worry for many. For Mohammed Ofoli, another fisherman, taking care of his dependents will now be a difficult task. Operators of local eateries, fishmongers and other service providers on the value chain believe the close season will bring hardship as sales will decline drastically.
For 1 month, it is so see or tumudia, and no dear to me country or because or no or hini walk cromwa. It is so see what tumudia. Yan to mean country one inti on pesca cacramae, near chichen mae, near fento adrenaline for 1 month,
Some government officials have been touring the fishing community. We met the executive director of the Fisheries Commission, Michael Arthur-Dadzi, who says government is collaborating with the Ghana Navy to ensure strict compliance.
In fact, the security agencies are part of the enforcement process. Ghana Navy, as I said, they are at high seas. In fact, they are at sea patrolling. We have the fisheries enforcement unit having been deployed. We are doing beach combing. Our zonal directors are on the spot, also giving us information.
As mixed reactions greet the close season, most fishermen at Jamestown are complying with the directive, hoping the move will achieve its intended aim of ending the overexploitation of marine resources, especially fish stock, which has been on the decline over the years. Henry Kwisibedu's report for JoyNews.
Well, sounds like good news, but the devil is always in the detail, and we'll be looking at the detail momentarily. Let's take you to the central region now and check the situation there. Richard Kojonyako is there for us. Hello, Richard. Hello, Richard.
Hi, Gifty.
Well, can you tell us whether or not the fisher folk there are obeying the directive?
Yes, they have complied with the directive. So this morning I started from Cape Coast. I went through the beaches and I saw no canoe on the sea. In the afternoon, I also went to Elmina and I had an interaction with them. They said that yes, they are cool with the directive of government to close the sea, but they want an alternative, some intervention for them, and they want government to protect those who are engaged in the psycho business. The psycho business, what they do essentially is that they travel and meet those big trawlers on the sea who would have thrown the small fishes that they catch that they do not even want. So they have their target fish. So they catch the target fish as well as the smaller fishes that they do not need. And then they would throw about 90% of those that they have caught. So eventually the fishes in this they are throwing back into the sea would have been dead. But they say that it is their intervention that is also providing some livelihood for the people along the coast. So they want government to legitimize their business and also to ensure that they supervise the big trawlers on the sea very well, because now their season hasn't been closed. But they want government to monitor them very well so that they don't catch the small fishes, so it will not affect the fishing industry. So that is essentially what they want to put across and they want to tell government. But they have embraced the closed season and they are complying with the directive.
Richard Kojonyako there from the Central Region. Richard, thank you for that report. Let me come back to the studio and engage the Deputy Minister for Fisheries, Francis Atu Kujo. Sir, thank you very much for your time once again.
Thank you for having me.
So, a number of issues that have been raised. Let's begin with how it is going so far from your own assessment.
Okay, thank you very much. So far, the reports we are getting from the grounds are that there's absolute, I would say, total compliance all along the coastal communities. We have our officers in the regions who are going from one location to the other. Ghana Navy is helping out. They have moved vessels from Takrady, one going to Axim, and one coming to Winneba. Same has happened at Tema, one from Tema going to Winneba, another going to Aflao, to ensure that we have, but so far we haven't had anywhere that people have breached this directive. So we hope that so far it's been...
And there hasn't been any resistance?
No. You get the feedback we are getting. What are we going to eat and all that? But there hasn't been any resistance because we did a very good engagement.
Which is what I was going to come to. So we hear the people that we spoke to, our reporter spoke to, talk about the fact that they've been well educated on this now, so they understand. But there is still one key issue about the timing. So initially you wanted to do this in August because apparently that is the ideal time within which you can do this and replenish the fish stock. But at the moment you have had to settle for June. That again is a problem. How do you intend to use the same strategy with which you've been able to get them on board this particular season to do it in June? How do you intend to extend the education to getting them to do it in August?
Okay, so first of all, we had negotiated with the fishers and then developed a fisheries management plan
Okay.
From 2015 to 2019.
Okay, if we want to show this on viewers, I'll have to hold it this way.
Plan. Yeah, from 2015 to 2019. Now, the fact is that when this plan was developed, sometimes we allow politics and all those things. We're going to an election. So people find it they found it difficult to implement this policy because...
Okay. But the people are who? That's you?
No, NDC. I'm talking about NDC, really? The previous government, yes. 2015, we're not in power. So they couldn't implement it. And then when we came, this is the fisheries plan that's supposed to guide us to 2019. And that's why we said that we need to implement this plan because, first of all, if you look at the Act 202, this Act was implemented in 202. Section 84 talks about close season. So from 2002, when we passed the law, we have never been able to implement close season. This is our 17th year since the Act came into being. Okay. So in this document, and I pray that maybe your cameras will be able to pick this. You can see that we wanted to implement the close season in May, June. You can see it here. You can.
So this is protecting marine habitat and biodiversity. Protecting marine habitat to conserve biodiversity. So where exactly? This one. Yeah. Okay. So it reads implement close season according to oceanographic data, mainly from May and June, between two upwelling periods when adult fish come close to shore to.
So this is the plan. Do it in May and June. But last year when we were just about to doing it, we had a scientific committee come to advise us, which is also the law, that whatever you are doing, get the best advice from the scientific people. Okay. So this is what we have put down as far as 2015. But last year they advised that August the best period. August the best period. So we wanted to do it in August, but the fishers said, no, this is what we have negotiated with you. We have negotiated May and June. So we want to stay with this. Until the 2019 is passed, we can talk about new days. Okay. So as I'm talking to you now, I mean, even though we just started implementing this, we have spoken about 2019, and it looks as if 2019, they are prepared to do it in July. So we'll keep talking. But as I'm speaking to you, the trawlers who export about 70% of the catch, they are going to do this in August and September for 2 months.
Okay, hold on with that. I'll come to that because we'll be talking about the trawlers as well. One of the concerns that the fisher folks seem to have. But you spoke about the scientific people that you had to meet, you had to consult on this particular project. One of them is on the line at the moment, Professor Kobna Youngson. Said, thank you so much for your time this afternoon.
Thank you.
So at the moment, we believe that you're in the best place to tell us. We're doing this in June. We also understand that August would have been ideal. What do you think we can achieve doing this in June?
Well, I am not I'm not well positioned to pronounce on what we can achieve in May, June, because I was not party to the group that decided to implement the close season in May, June, because I have no basis to make any pronouncement. All I can say is that in May, June, the fish are not in reproductive condition. And when you implement close season, you implement it at a time when the fish are in reproductive season, so that you protect the reproductive fish, allow them to breed, to replenish the stock. So as for May, June, I do not have any scientific basis to make any pronouncement on achievement.
So outside scientific basis, is it safe for me as someone who doesn't understand what happens on the sea to assume that we will not make much if we do this in June?
Well, as I said, if they are not reproducing in June, and you are protecting fish which are not reproducing for you to replenish your stock, I do not understand what the whole thing is about.
Let's talk about the trawlers. I have the Deputy Minister here in the studio with me. He's just mentioned the trawlers. He says that they contribute to about 70% of activities on the sea. He says those people are going to observe the close season next year, and they're going to do this for this year, and they're going to do this for 2 months, so August and September. Does that suffice in your scientific perspective?
Well, you see, the trawlers, they are not supposed to catch the small pelagics, which the close season is aiming at improving the stock. The trawlers are registered to catch demersal fish offshore. You see, the small pelagics, they are found mainly in inshore waters, and they are the fish targeted by the canoes. And so if you say that you are closing the season for trawlers, the trawlers in the first place should not be catching the small pelagics. So what the ministry, as Ghanaians, we should do is to let the trawlers comply with the law, the license that has been issued to them. They should work according to that. If they fish offshore and they target demersal fish, we may not even need to close them. But it is because they are fishing on grounds that they are not supposed to fish. That is why it has been found necessary to close them.
So, you were one of the people, obviously, who wanted this to be done in August, correct?
Yes.
At the moment, we're doing it in June. If we had done it in August, do you have I assume you have a scientific basis as to how much we would have achieved, or for example, what percentage of fish stock we would have replenished? Can you share that with us?
Well, what I know from our projections is that if we close the season in August for 1 month, we will rebuild the stock to appreciable levels by 2030. By 2030, we will increase the stock or the catches by 90,000 metric tons. We will increase it by 90,000 metric tons by 2030 if we close the fishing season in August just for 1 month. But what I can say is that in all the other countries where close season has been, employed to rebuild their stocks, they always start with 1 month. But when the fisher folks themselves notice that there is an improvement, then they themselves request for an increase in an extension of the duration, so that they get the maximum benefits, in the quickest possible time.
Right.
This has happened in the Philippines. It has happened in Mauritania. It has happened in Morocco. It has happened in Guinea-Conakry. Why don't we do it in Ghana, to save our collapsing small pelagic stocks?
Well, perhaps we're having to somehow settle for June. 90,000 metric tons. I am totally ignorant about how much of that we will make doing this in June. But then again, would you not say that based on the resistance that followed the announcement and the fact that the farmers, the fisher folk themselves have finally, been able to agree for it to be done in June, that gradually we can get there. And so we should make the most of what we have at the moment doing this in June?
You see, last year, the resistance centered around mainly the short notice. Regarding festivals, even with the Homowo issue, we interacted with the implementation committee, and they managed to convince the Homowo people to do something, which will not prevent the Homowo festivities from taking place.
Okay.
Some arrangement was made behind closed doors. So even if it had come on last year in August, some arrangement had already been made. Now, this year, when the Scientific and Technical Working Group, when we heard of the May-June closure, we convened a meeting and invited those people who actually met and decided on the May-June, those stakeholders. We invited them to our meeting. And when we made presentations to them, and they saw the seriousness of the situation, they said that if we had shown them those slides, they wouldn't have decided on May-June. But the point is that we were not invited to that meeting in Tema. That was the reason why we wrote a letter, which was submitted by the Chief of Party of the Sustainable Fisheries Management Project to the Minister that the second best option, apart from the August, would be July. Okay. If the August is a problem, if we do it in July, that will also yield some results, because the breeding season begins, the peak of the breeding season is July, August, and September.
Okay. So, Prof, do hang on briefly for me, and let me throw these back to the Deputy Minister who is here in the studio with me. Mr. Kujo, you've heard Professor Jansen, and I believe that you've been engaging him. He says that his committee, his group of people, he himself were cut off consultations at a point. You had a meeting in Tema at which he was not invited, but at that meeting they had some slides that they showed the people that the people seemed to have, understood that even if you wanted, you couldn't do it in August. July was the most ideal next alternative.
Okay, so I'm happy the Prof corrected himself at the last time that the peak spawning period. Yeah. So there are some spawning activities as we are talking.
Yeah, it's but we want the best, right?
No, it's a minor spawning season. And this document that I presented, this document, which is from 2015 to 2019, that is the basis for the close season, says we should do it May, June. So for this 2019, we are not out of order. First of all,
it's not really about the paper or what the paper says. It's about what the scientists say is the best.
To understand that within the law 2002, because of disagreement with fishers, we have never been able to implement this. And don't forget that one of the reasons for the decline of fish stock is also overcapacity and overexploitation. So that if at the end of the day you have the fishers sitting down for 1 month, you are reducing effort. We have talked about over effort or increased effort. So if you are sitting down 1 month, you're also reducing effort. So there's some positiveness in it. But the truth of the matter is that
he doesn't dispute that. I don't think he disputes that, except that he's saying that if we had done this in August, we'll be making.
It is our preferred period.
So based on their projections, we could be making 90,000 metric tons extra.
It is our preferred period. But the truth of the matter is that at the point that we're making the decision, 5th February, which he said we didn't invite him, the fishers will not accept to do it in August. So we're getting to a point where we have to postpone this again. Okay. Then after we had done the meetings, I mean a month or so after we had a meeting, we had this letter from SFMP asking us that they have spoken to the fishers and that we'll do it in July. Now, one day we got the letter, we called the heads, the regional heads of Ghana National Canoe Fishermen Councils, and they said no, they were not part of that meeting. Some sessions were called, but that doesn't represent them. They said that this is the time they can get their members to comply. The main problem is compliance. So we have compromised and we have convinced them. Next year, we have all agreed that next year we are going to July. Okay. But the point is that we had to start somehow, because for over 17 years when the act was passed, we have never been able to implement this.
Okay, Prof, this explanation makes some sense, doesn't it?
Well, what he is saying makes some sense in some context. You see, but our position is that if you are doing something for the first time, you do it at a time that the consequences will be significant. The outcome will be significant.
In order to convince people that it actually works.
So that the people will have belief in it. and they themselves will voluntarily, even suggest an extension of the close period. And that's what we have learned from elsewhere.
Prof, at the moment, this is where we are.
If for the first time you do it and the outcome is insignificant, it's not obvious, what impact will it have on the fisher folks?
Right. So, Prof, at the moment, this is what we have. From what he's saying, the people disagreed, they still resisted. We are here. We're doing it in June. We've had some reports from Cape Coast. We've had some report from Jamestown. The people seem to be ready and happy to comply. The way forward for you from where we are is what?
Yeah, that is fine if the people have agreed to comply. But I will encourage them to comply because we all want the revamping of our marine fish stocks, especially the small pelagic, which are referred to as the people's fish. So if they are complying, it is fine. But what we are saying is that we are not making use of the best available science.
Next year, it will go to July. That's what you say, right? Yeah. So next year it will go to July. That brings some satisfaction.
Well, let me make this point. You see, our projection is that if by 2020 we do not do anything to anything positive to revamp the fisheries, we might end up losing the small pelagic stocks altogether. You see, the reason is that the science tells us, in every fishery, if the landings or the catches drop to 10% or less of the historical maximum, then it will be very difficult to rebuild the stock.
Okay.
As at 2016, our landings had dropped to about 20,000 metric tons. The historical maximum was 130,000 metric tons in 1996. And so in 2016, we were doing around 30% of the historical maximum. We have gone through 2016, 2017, 2018, we are in 2019. Who knows? Have we crossed the point of no return?
Well,
so we are only praying that we have not already crossed the point of no return.
Okay. Well, hopefully we're not at that point yet. But Prof, thank you so much for your time this afternoon. Professor Kobna Yankson there joining us with that perspective. So we've heard what he said. It looks like July isn't so bad. But you see, the point that he's making is that for the first time, if you're implementing something for the first time, you want to make a statement that's strong enough to get the people themselves to voluntarily continue with this process. He says that could have been achieved. There is enough scientific basis that could have been achieved better in August.
Okay, so this argument has been there since 2002, okay? And we have not been able to get anybody to agree to implement this. Okay. Now, when I talked about the trawlers, he said that they are targeting the demersal fish. Yes, their license allows them. The license say target the demersal fish, but unfortunately, in reality, they are actually doing pelagic fishing.
So you believe that if they go on with the ban in August and September,
we will have a result, some good results.
You think we'll have
that's
some
the
good
peak
results?
Season. Yes, because they do a lot of the point is the net. If you raise a net, you are supposed to. The mesa is the fishes on the ground. Okay. But pelagics, they either mid water, up water. So they have a way of raising the net to be able to catch this. Of course, we should be able to stop them. But you don't have the men enough to be able to police them and all over the place. So there are a lot of activities that goes on. They are allowed to land about 15% small size, pelagic catch. Because obviously if you throw your net, you can't select which fish is coming in. But unfortunately, sometimes over 50%, 60% of the catch is pelagic. So once we are banning them from fishing between August and September, these animals will be able to spawn, and then be able to we can make some recovery.
Hopefully.
But I think that we should be praised for being able to be, for so many years, being bold to implement this decision. It's something that we need. And I'm so the good professor is saying that he doesn't know whether we have crossed the
point of no return.
Point of no return. We should have done this long ago, but this disagreement has continued, and this time we have insisted that we will compromise and then we'll go forward.
Okay. Do you have specific targets you want to achieve with this June ban?
The point is
in terms of metric tons.
The advice that came from the scientific committee is that when we do it around August, because of where we are, we need to do it at the peak spawning period. Today, if you go to the beach and you buy about 10 pieces of fish, you are likely to find about 3 of them carrying eggs. But in August, if you buy the same 10 pieces of fish, you find about 8 of them carrying eggs.
So do we have a target for June?
The June target, according to the scientists themselves, is that the recovery will be about something between 5 to 10%. Whereas if you have done it in June, we're going to have about 25%.
Okay.
We think that even if it's 5%, we should do it. And as they embrace it going forward, we can come to the time that all of us desire to be.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's talk about alternatives for the fisher folk, and unfortunately we again seem to be running out of time, so I'll try and do this quickly. Regarding the alternatives, they've spoken about it. They said for 1 month, I mean, give us some salary, give us something to live on. What's the plan? We spoke about this last year.
That's a call. It's a call that we have heard, and we have heard loudly everywhere we go. But our view is different. Our view is that we need to support them in terms of their operations. So the resources, the little resources that we have, we are bringing outboard motors, we are bringing nets, and we are bringing other fishing inputs at subsidized prices. The president also directed that we go ahead with the construction of landing beaches along the coast. These are all investment that government is doing into the industry.
But that's investment. We're talking about the people's alternatives for them for that 1 month.
What do we prefer? Do we take the money and give them to chop? Because we have about close to 3 million people.
I remember the last time you were here, you said that the EU Commission was sponsoring, giving the ministry some money for the fisher folk.
The
World Bank.
That project passed, and then because with that time we also introduced a program. We know it was harsh, but we are going over 1 year advice. They themselves chose this period. And let me also tell.
No, you've not answered my question, Mr. Kuju.
No, I'm saying,
is there money coming for the fisher folk? Nothing.
There's no money coming.
Nothing.
First of all, if we are talking about impact, the month of May, June, in reality, there's very minimal fishing activity because the sea is rough. And so most of them actually have to put their canoe and the net down. This is the time they also sit down, prepare their net, prepare their canoes for the upcoming fishing season, July, August, September. So actually, in reality, the impact is very small.
You think there won't be a lot of impact on their activity, their ability to how much they make? There won't be a lot of impact on how much they make.
In the short term, we believe that there will be some impact, but in the longer term,
because they have said from our interviews with all of them, all they're asking for is government should give them NOCO fuel. So is the NOCO fuel not coming?
No, well, I'm saying that the decisions we have made is that we should rather channel whatever little money we have, we should look at empowering them in their operations, investing into inputs for the fishers.
So subsidize input for the fishers.
Subsidize input for the fishers. Because if you are going to give money to over 3 million people, I mean, that's going to be a lot.
So that's not possible.
So going forward, we'll find other means and ways of trying to minimize the effect around this time. But for now, our decision is that we should rather invest in the inputs for the fishers.
Again, the World Bank projects, the World Bank financial support that came through, what has happened to it then?
No, we were hoping to get some money. It was about 3.5 million at that time grant from the World Bank to support the fishing communities during the close season. Unfortunately, because the close season didn't come on, and then also the project has come to an end, that money couldn't come to us.
I see.
Because the close season was called off, so they were also, and then of course the project ended last September.
And you've not been able to convince them that the close season is coming on, and so they should bring that money on?
The project ended last September, so we don't have any relationship with the World Bank as we are speaking now, as far as giving them money is concerned.
Interesting. Yeah. Well, if you're a fisher folk, you have friends, family, people there, government says that you wouldn't necessarily be getting money as in what pertains in LEAP, for example, but what you're going to get are subsidized fishing implements. So I'm very interested to get feedback on that one as well. And I don't know how far you have engaged the fisher folk to understand that this is what is going to happen, because it appears some of them have very high expectations that some money will come through from government.
I think that we have the leaders understand, the leaders are aware that this is the approach we want to go. We rather want to invest in inputs and improve the fishing effort rather than to do some of these things.
Okay.
But that because we are talking to the civil society organizations that work in the fishing space to see what they can do to support them. So some of them have adopted some communities, and I'm sure that within a period they may go in and do some things. We also encourage MPs and other people who think that they can support their community to do that. But we have taken a decision that whatever resource that we have should be channeled this way. We want to make sure that we support them in their job, rather than say that somebody said they will form a queue and we'll have to come
collect money.
No, I don't think that's the best approach.
You don't think that's a sustainable approach? Well, in wrapping up, let's talk about enforcement. Yeah. The ban is between now until the next month.
Yes.
Right. How is enforcement like?
Okay, so we have the Fisheries Enforcement Unit, which is the unit under the Fisheries Commission that enforces sea and land. They do land and sea investigations and patrol to ensure that our rules are enforced. We also work with the Ghana Navy, who today we understand they have actually moved their vessels and they are combing the sea area to see whether there's anybody who has breached the rule. And then, of course, we have the Marine Police that are also there to do prosecution and all that. We have our fishers, our officers, who are combing the coastal areas, the fishing areas to see whether they are breached. We have also worked with the traditional authorities, so the chiefs and the paramount chiefs. Normally, when I want to mention some of the paramount chiefs who have helped, that Tobosri is there. We have Winneba Chief, Nana Neigate. We have Commander Chief. We have Discov Chiefs, and we have Tribukusu, Awula Tribukusu of Axim. These are chiefs who are behind us, they are supporting us, and they are ensuring that there's enforcement in their communities. And the chief fishermen themselves have also put themselves into groups, and they are taking serious decisions about this. In fact, some of the things they want to do is that after the close season, they are insisting that nobody goes to sea with light, with other chemical, dynamite or carbide, and many other things they have used, which has caused some of this drastic reduction. And they themselves are also going to ensure that their members don't do that.
Okay.
We have also asked the security to up their game in arresting anybody who is found with light fishing after the close season. Because we can't sit down 1 month fast and then you go in with chemicals to kill the fish. No, that won't be something that we're going to take.
Okay. Final words, any? Do you have?
Okay, so my final words is that we are grateful to the fishers for the report that we are hearing. It's just the beginning. If there's any hardship, it's going to bite as we get almost get to the middle and to the end. But we should stay focused, because we need this to help us to recover the dwindling fish stock. So it's a good thing, and we want them to come on board. Convince their boys to come on board. But most of the noise is not coming from the canoe owners and the chiefs.
It's coming from the boys.
It's coming from the grounds.
We'll see how it goes there. Deputy Minister for Fisheries, Francis Atu Kujo, thank you very much for coming once again.
Thank you.